Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to N5D Radio's Cosmic Awakening Show, where we are serving this galaxy and beyond. My name is Michelle Walling, and I'm with N5D.com and HowToExitTheMatrix.com. And my goal is to reach as many people as possible with a database of articles, videos, and radio shows that will help aid you in your spiritual awakening. At the Cosmic Awakening Show, we encourage you to question everything. I'd like to give a very special thanks to my sponsor, Greg Prescott from N5D.com, which is the world's hottest esoteric, metaphysical, and spiritual database on the Internet. Greg is also the webmaster for our sister site, BodyMindSoulSpirit.com. And I wanted to mention how to exit. Okay, let me try that one again. HowToExitTheMatrix.com. See, I'm already exiting, so I can't even say the words. For those who would like to go even deeper into the big picture of the possibility of the planet existing in a controlled matrix, and if so, what are we going to do about it? And I also have a website called CosmicStarseeds.com where you can find all of the articles that I have written and all of my radio shows. And you can find out about booking a holistic life coach session with me at michellewalling.com. And that's going really well. I've been having some wonderful, amazing people. It seems like the people that have been sent to me, I always have something in common with, or I'm able to reach deep inside to a past life when I had some kind of experience that actually parallels what the person is actually looking for, and it's basically reuniting soul family. So it's wonderful. Just contact me on Facebook, or you can contact me through my website, michellewalling.com, and we can set up a session. You can also find every episode of the Cosmic Awakening Show on iTunes. You just go to iTunes and type in N5D, and all of the shows for N5D Radio will be right there. So a special shout out to all of my Facebook friends and all the groups that I'm in, over 100 of them on Facebook. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate the platform to be able to bring information to people, and Facebook is a big part of our social media campaign. And I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room: Gemini Moon, Greg Prescott, Stephanie Pisani, and everybody else, the guests that are joining us tonight. I just love having a little family chat in the evenings, and if you have any questions, be sure and type them in on the chat room, and I'll do my best to ask our guest. So this week's topic is how to counteract hyperdimensional attacks, and our guest tonight is Bernhard Guenther. And if you would like to ask us a question, you can call in at the second half of the show. The phone number to call is area code 646-716-8890. Be sure to press 1 to raise your hand to let me know that you have a question. So, Bernhard Guenther has had a lifelong interest in exploring the mysteries and hidden knowledge surrounding our planet and humanity's origins, questioning the roots of what constitutes reality and how social and spiritual conditioning impacts upon our collective search for the truth in all aspects of life. His blog, Piercing the Veil of Reality, has a wide-ranging collection of articles, essays, and films, ranging from spirituality, psychology, politics, and history to the UFO phenomenon and hyperdimensional realities. Bernhard feels that in order to make a collective shift in consciousness, we need to do the work to separate truth from lies, both within and without, to raise awareness about these deeper topics, and to bring the darkness to light while making the shadow conscious so that we can truly heal, evolve, and grow. And all of these values are pursued in order to achieve humanity's collective emancipation, which involves every individual becoming fully embodied sovereign beings, playing our unique parts in this evolution of the heart space, anchoring a higher frequency of love and compassion for self and others. And besides reading and researching and writing his material, Bernhard works as a professional body worker in Topanga Canyon, California, helping individuals in their path towards healing and holistic wellness. And you can read more about Bernhard and his practice at veilofreality.com. So Bernhard, welcome to the Cosmic Awakening Show.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I have listened to a couple of your interviews, and you are definitely way up there in the understanding of the shift in consciousness, which is really what I call ascension. I know that the word ascension has been banged around a lot and a lot of different definitions put with it, but that is my definition of ascension. I've always talked about, the increasing of frequency on the planet and therefore raising of consciousness, and that's one of the topics that we'll be talking about tonight. And I was wondering if you would start off our show, Bernhard, by giving our listeners a little idea of when your cosmic awakening actually occurred and the steps that brought you to your understanding of where we are today.
Yes, in a nutshell, I grew up in Munich, Germany, and was always felt as like an outsider and alone, could never relate much to anyone or the world we live in. So I was also very insecure and low self-esteem, and I just went along with the program, graduated from high school, then started going to University of Munich for a couple of semesters, but I was still never really happy or fulfilled. And then my passion and the way I could really express myself, because I was also still am very emotionally sensitive, and a lot of my emotions I just couldn't express in words, was music, and in particular playing drums. So I dropped out of the university and moved to Los Angeles to study drums and percussion and just pursue music, which I did for many years, and really just, I was practicing 4 or 6 hours a day of drums. And while I was playing drums so much, as I was expressing myself, exploring myself emotionally through rhythm and music, so much stuff came up emotionally, and I've experienced
Okay, everybody, I'm sorry about that. We just got disconnected, just completely cut off. Bernhard is still with me, and Bernhard, if you could please continue your explanation of how you got to where you are right now, and I hope that we can stay connected here.
I hope so too. I'm not sure exactly where we got cut off, but basically I moved to Los Angeles to study drums and percussion, and I used music and drums to really explore myself emotionally. A lot of things came up, and I was suffering under a lot of depression and just despair. And one night or day, I literally basically told myself I have to figure myself out before I was also had suicidal thoughts and all this stuff. So it really pushed me to learn more about spirituality, psychology, and all of that. And that really started a journey on its own. And, as I was reading more and more, as the saying goes, the right teacher appears at the right time in the form of a book or teaching. And the big, quote-unquote, wake-up call for me, or which triggered my awakening, was when I read Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Messiniak in the late 90s. An amazing
my
book.
first books, too.
Yeah, it was incredible. I remember reading it, and it was, how we sometimes resonate with certain material, but it was even beyond that. It was such a deep recognition of something I always knew, and it was like more remembering and almost like an instruction manual, quote unquote. And that really, got me deeper into other topics, and especially also the alien topic, UFOs. And back then I was taking in information like a sponge, and I was also not very discerning at first because I was so fascinated by the material, right? But then, during that time, I also got introduced to massage and body work and yoga, and found another talent, a healing talent, providing body work. So after the music thing fell apart, my band broke up, I pursued body work, moved to Topanga Canyon, living out in nature, literally by myself, and just studied more, started working as a body worker, and also started to write, because it was, without any agenda or any ideas of, wanting to become a writer. I just put my thoughts out, and that resulted in my blog. And some years later, I made a couple of films with my friend who suggested to put my writings in film format. And we made 3 films, which are Know Thyself, Love, Reality in the Time of Transition, as well as UFOs, Aliens, and the Question of Contact, where I go deep into this whole hyperdimensional aspect. And but especially after the release of that film in 2011, the UFO documentary, I started to experience a lot of high strangeness in my life, and psychic attacks, hyperdimensional interferences, as if something didn't want me to get the information out there. And so over the years, I've learned also to be more discerning about certain information, and really came to the realization how important the inner work is, to really do our self-clearing in order to able to anchor a higher frequency, but also gain information, learn and study, gain knowledge, and use critical thinking. So the work is always within and without.
Well, you mentioned hyperdimensional beings found you. How do you think that they found you? Do you think that once you begin your awakening, you begin to raise your vibration, you begin to bring in more light? Do you think they have like a light sensor or something? I mean, how do they track people?
It's a good question. I think in general, even you look back into some old esoteric teachings, or you can also even relate it to the film The Matrix, right? The first Matrix film, which has a lot of esoteric truths in it. The moment Neo wakes up, so to speak, and sees the Matrix for what it is, Agent Smith is being put on him, mostly working through other people. So I feel in the awakening process, if you really start to question the Matrix and expose the forces, be it, on a physical level, government, whatever, or on a hyperdimensional level, you attract a certain attention, and then forces are being put upon you, trying to vector you off your path, trying to, basically keep you in the frequency present, because they have their own agenda. And one of what Carlos Castaneda calls the topic of all topics is that humanity is on some level farmed for their soul energy or emotion. So they want their agenda or their interest is to keep us in a certain lower frequency prison to be used as a food source. And food doesn't have to be necessarily physically. It's it's created through chaos, wars, distorted sexual energy, emotional turmoil, and fear. And the way they get to us, and I've seen in my own life, is through our own blind spots, through our own trauma or shadow issues. So that's why shadow work or making the darkness conscious is very important. So we kind of create our own protection and frequency.
Well, so what do you think? What do you think is the method by which they have tapped into us, and basically we have used our own free will in agreeing to be here in this matrix by not knowing that we are in a matrix, and by voting and by spending and by wanting and all of these things that we are basically tricked into through our thoughts, through extremely low frequency waves and programming through television, to consume and buy and want. Do you think that there was an organic matrix creation, kind of like perhaps I like to compare it to the Star Trek holodeck, where we decided, to send our consciousness into this reality by, basically walking onto the holodeck and saying, let me go have this reality. But then somewhere along the line, when we were in here, this whole thing got hijacked. Do you think that the matrix is an overlay, like a virus in a computer software program, or do you see it a different way? Because we need to know exactly what it is in order to dissolve it.
No, I agree. It's almost like a virus in the computer system, like you just said, and certainly has been hijacked and genetically modified from our original state. So, various forces that talk about that humanity has been taken over hundreds and thousands of years ago by these alien forces, which are mostly hyperdimensional, and started to genetically modify us for their own interest. But from a higher perspective, you can also see, is it a prison or school? It's also, all these are lessons. So through the friction, through the duality of evil versus good, or or service to self and service to others, however you want to define it, we are also being forced through the limitations, through the friction, evolution happens, and we're being forced to learn our lessons, so to speak, or encouraged. So I also see these hyperdimensional, quote-unquote, negative entities as our teachers, because all the experience I've gone through in my own personal life, as hard as it's been at times, provided valuable lessons in order to really work on myself, to do shadow work, to gain more understanding of reality, and really remember where I came from and anchor a higher frequency. So I think it's all part of the evolution of consciousness.
Now, what do you consider hyperdimensional? I would say that a dimension would be a level within each like a density. Okay, so you have like a level, and within each density level there are these dimensions. Do you see it that way? And what is hyperdimensional?
Yeah, the different people use different words: interdimensional, hyperdimensional. I use hyperdimensional in relation actually to the density model, which you have been just talking about. I think the raw material first talked about the 7 different densities, which are, each density has its own structure and level of being, basically. For example, first density just being the material world of stones and rocks. Second density, the animal kingdom, vegetable world. Third density being humanity, and fourth density, then we go into the non-physical realm, which also then there are, positive and negative forces, STS or STO. So I use, again, I think there are many people use different words, but maybe basically talking about the same.
Yeah. Hard to explain it, because our language is so limiting, and really
exactly.
Words don't describe it. So what the unseen forces basically that have been trying to hijack our reality here, they would be described. Would you call them like a fourth dimensional or fourth density?
Fourth density, I would say. I would use fourth density, and different cultures and different teachings have used different terms. The Sufis called it the jinn. Then you have the Gnostics talking about the archons.
Right.
And then there is even in ancient esoteric Christianity, before the church corrupted it, Boris Moraviev talks in his trilogy Gnosis about the general law which rules over humanity, which basically is the hyperdimensional control system. So, or even Gurdjieff talked about the quote-unquote evil magician, that we are food for the moon. All these are symbolisms and metaphors that relate to the same topic.
Okay, so in order to get into a fifth dimensional frequency, and oftentimes I hear, well, what about the fourth density, or fifth, in order to get to the fifth, what about the fourth? Do you think that right now the veil is kind of being lifted and we are actually merging with the edge of the fourth density in order to kind of build a bridge across to the next higher dimensional frequency, which is...
I think that's definitely what's happening. Everything is coming up. Like the quote-unquote good and the bad. That's why it's so important to really stay grounded. I'm really a big proponent of embodiment and that's meaning of anchoring the frequency, because we are all transducers of energy, and it's all about what we align ourselves with. And it's also what is important to understand in terms of evil or STS, service to self, that some beings here, even humans or hyperdimensional beings, they choose to be STS. They are basically evolving or devolving towards the dark side of creation, but there is a percentage of humanity that are wired and meant to evolve towards the light side of creation, STO, or love. So it's really about what we align ourselves with. That's really what it comes down to, as transducers of energy.
Well, because we do have free will, and we are, our soul is actually outside of this matrix, and it has sent an aspect or a little fractal of itself down here. Several different people are here for different reasons. Some people came here to help the collective human consciousness raise itself out of what has been termed as this matrix prison, and some of us are here for just the experience, to learn the lessons that the original matrix, the organic matrix was designed in polarity and duality to give us a bit of a challenge and to help us learn what we want based on what we don't want in order to experience what we don't want. And then some of us are basically here and aren't going to, we didn't really even plan to move to the next level yet. We just wanted to be here and witness the earth raising her frequency and shaking off, the old lower vibrational entities, and so some of them will go back to source and be reconstituted, and these people who are not quite ready yet will actually have a third dimensional experience somewhere else. This is just kind of like a stepping stone or an elementary school for them. So
right.
Do you see that as a kind of conglomerate? Did I miss any of the groups, perhaps, of the souls that are here right now experiencing this?
No, I think you make a good point, because there are 7 billion people on this planet, and although we are all one from a much higher perspective on this level on 3D, there are different levels of consciousness and different lessons, soul lessons for each of us, right? So some of us, came here actually with a certain mission, to assist in this evolution of consciousness and raise the awareness and frequency, which ties into the topic of starseeds or wanderers, beings that have intentionally reincarnated with their mission profile. But then there are more, for lack of a better word, simple humans who actually need, in their evolutionary path, need to just experience 3D reality, right? And are not meant to ascend to a higher state. So that's my view on that, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know what group I'm in. I'm here to help humanity, and we're here to get this information out to people. This is how it just seems like it's a fiction. It seems like this is just a story that we're talking about, and that's because this is kind of like a game in a way, but it feels very real, and it's an emotional thing that we have, this emotional body that creates energy. And so it just seems so very real with our 5 senses. It feels like we have a very solid body, and it feels like, it looks like everything is real, but it's all really a holographic projection that we are experiencing. And so I think our world is very much going to change. Between now and the time that we have the beginning of a large shift in consciousness, a lot of people are getting hyperdimensionally attacked. And so I was wondering if we could get into that information. How do you recognize, when you start to see cognitive dissonance and things happening in your reality? Why is it happening? And what can we do about it?
Well, 2 ways the hyperdimensional or psychic attack can happen through our own minds, so we're directly attacked by these entities, or it can happen through other people. where they use other people as portals or puppets to try to get at us, right? So, for example, when you're around other people, feel drained, constantly tired, distracted, befuddled, confused. There's also ties into psychic vampirism, all of that maybe some force working through another person trying to get at you. Or, as I've experienced in my own life as well, with directly being attacked by these entities, which can result in depression or just feeling really, mostly just feeling very low energy. That's really not motivated, low vitality, and it can also even create illness and whatnot, and they can inject thoughts and emotions. And again, they also mostly, for the most part, attack us through our own blind spots or quote-unquote issues that we have. Childhood wounds, trauma we are not conscious of, so they exaggerate that, so to speak. And so the work is really like, even starting on a basic psychological level to heal our childhood wounds, because, nobody had perfect parents, and, something happened to us, and trauma can happen in various different degrees. So the two ways, but even, I think the most important thing is, especially when getting attacked through other people who are being used as portals, to never make it personal, not to engage in the fight, right? Not to counterattack, or, not to basically engage with these beings, entities on their level, right? So it's really about taking care of yourself, and like I can, in my own...
Oh, I think
and lack of boundaries.
You were cutting out just a little bit. Could you just repeat the last few words you said? I think in my own, and then it kind of cut out.
In my own life, I can relate that. For example, as I said before, I grew up with low self-esteem, low self-confidence, dealing with a lot of guilt and shame, and not being able to make boundaries, not being able to say no, and feeling guilty if I say no to other people. And so what I was lacking, for example, is healthy self-love, to take care of myself. And self-love is a tricky topic because, especially nowadays with social media and whatnot, and we see a lot of narcissism as well, right?
Yes, the opposite, the extreme.
That's the opposite, but that is, the self-love I'm really referring to. It doesn't need attention, admiration, anything from outside ourselves. It doesn't compare, none of that. It's just grounded in the I am presence of yourself, connected to your higher self and spirit.
Well, and, in order to get there, we have to go through these lessons, as you say. I mean, for instance, I have somebody in my personal that's very close to me that has a very narcissistic attitude towards himself. He's younger, and he looks in the mirror a lot and admires himself and is trying to figure out how he can make himself look the very best as he can. But in order for him to realize what self-love really is, not, going to the gym and pounding yourself until you rip a muscle or whatever, not giving yourself enough rest in between days when you're doing muscle, weightlifting and things, and it's not about trying to create a picture that other people will accept you for, as much as it is you have to kind of go through that in order to know what self-love really is. It's not worrying about what other people think about you, and accepting yourself exactly like you are, and listening to your body, communicating with your body, and communing with your body. How about now? Can everybody hear me okay? I guess we're having a little bit of difficulty.
Now you're back. You were
okay. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I was just basically saying that in order to know what self-love is, sometimes you have to learn what it is not. And so you have to go to the extreme opposite of self-love, which is narcissism, basically understanding that you're not so worried about what other people think about you. You're more in contact and in tune with your body and knowing what your body needs in order to have the highest frequency.
Right. See, that's why in that process, disillusionment is inevitable, because the tricky thing with self-love is like, oh, I love myself and I'm just being myself, like a lot of people say. But what self are they truly referring to? A lot of people are still very conditioned and programmed with social and cultural values, of, media, entertainment, whatnot. So the self they are referring to in their love is actually the conditioned self, and that results into narcissism or being so identified with the body and whatnot. So there is a necessary process of disillusionment. In they call it moral bankruptcy or the dark night of the soul. Not the destruction of the ego, but just the destruction of the false personality. I'm not saying to destroy your ego, because the ego is just a tool, and we need to refine the tool and use it what it's there for, not identify with it. Right?
Yes, I totally agree, and I wrote an article on that. A lot of people are saying that, in order to spiritually advance, you need to get rid of the ego, and I don't agree with that. I think the ego is part of you. I just think that the ego needs to be balanced along with everything else in your life. Balance is what we seek right now.
Yeah, sorry, but in the end, the ego needs to be a servant of spirit and not be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, service to others.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have any ego at all, I wouldn't have a personality. I wouldn't be able to take a very long time to balance my ego, because I was actually the opposite of that. I was actually very scared and afraid to speak out. And so I had to balance that part of my egoic self to where I hardly had any ego, to bringing myself into self-powerment and confidence, to be able to to commune with my higher self and speak and not worry about.
That's a very good point, Michelle, because I see, I can relate it in my own life, because I also come from low self-esteem, low sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
I see with many other people too, they're very insecure, and then they come across a spiritual, I would say corrupted spiritual teaching. They talk about destroy the ego and yada yada, but for them they need to actually create a healthy sense of self, which entails to a healthy ego, basically, and not just many teachings, result in a lot of guilt and shame, right? With the extreme of any dogmatic religion, basically, and the idea of sin and whatnot.
Yes, and then you have to have the ability, once you stumble along the path and you see what you have to experience what you don't want in order to change it 180 degrees, and to come in balance and tune with what you do want. You have to forgive yourself, because then that guilt is making you say, oh gosh, well, I can't believe I was acting that way, or I did this for so many years and it was so wrong, and now I see how wrong it was and I want to be different. But it is about forgiveness is a very high vibration, along with gratitude. Gratitude for realizing, for the opportunity to see what was out of balance. In other words, our external reality is mirroring to us what is out of balance within, so that we can work on that and clear it. If you would, could you give the listeners some ways that they can work on clearing this energy, that if you have some things happening in your external environment, you can be guaranteed that it's a reflection of either your internal space or someone around you? And what are some good ways to clear that?
Well, when the attack comes to other people, or when you feel drained, or somebody's really just not making you feel good all the time, the first step is really to remove yourself.
Mm-hmm.
To really learn, boundaries, and especially when you're on a path of awakening and you understand more of reality, and on this path, you're being more discerning who you surround yourself with, and really learning on trusting your gut instinct, your intuition. That's been the biggest part for me. I always had strong intuition, and many times I saw the red flags, but I wasn't acting on them because I wasn't trusting myself, and my intellect and my thoughts and rationalization was overriding my intuition. So, if something feels off and weird, trust that. That's really your guidance system. We all have that's I'm really encouraging people to really learn to trust themselves. That's the best advice I can give. And
boy, isn't that the truth?
yes.
I mean, when I look back at both of my marriages, I think, what the hell was I thinking? And I believe that at least one of them was this love bite scenario that we'll talk about in a little while, where our thoughts are being guided. They actually can. These dimensional beings actually can make you fall in love with someone, but it's not real, and because you have such a low self-esteem or self-worth that you're easily guided. So, but really, what I wanted to talk about is the reason that we're able to be manipulated is because apparently in one of our energy fields, whether it be the emotional, the spiritual, the mental, which are affecting the physical, how can someone actually go about clearing their aura, their energy fields? What is your best advice? And I could go over a few techniques that I've used as well.
Right. I mean, there are many different things, and what I've worked with so many people. I do body work and do other work as well. I also do sessions or energy work, and I've learned many modalities that I apply on myself. But also, what I realized, everybody's a different individual, right? Mm-hmm. So what works for one may not work for another. For some people, for example, they are very over emotional, extremely sensitive, mm-hmm. right? So and they have a hard time taking information on the mental realm. So they need to, for example, be more grounded in emotional self, so that they get triggered that easily and taking information more, really using, the intellect is sometimes demonized and there's a danger of getting stuck in the head, but also the intellect has its purpose, right? To take in information, ground it, understand it, and apply it. So some people need to maybe work more on that level. Other people who are which most people are, and I've been in that category very intellectually, being stuck in the head disconnected from the body, and you take in all this information, internet. Years ago, and especially nowadays, people just take in information just because they're lost. They listen to this and read this, and there's conflicting information, and they try to think themselves through it, but it's impossible. So it's really important to become embodied, to get into your body, right? To engage in conscious body-mind practices. Like, for example, I've been practicing yoga for 15 years and Qigong for 10 years. I do it daily, combined with meditation. And then simple time in nature, getting away from all the EMF, from computers and smartphones, and really, spend time in silence, get away and recharge yourself in nature. I mean, for me personally, I made a conscious choice to live in nature. And with my work, because I work on 15 people average a week, so I need to take care of myself and recharge myself, and nature is for me key. I also where I live, I don't have cell phone reception, so I'm not subjected to that radiation, and I also don't use Wi-Fi. I have an Ethernet connection, so I really try to keep my place and space as clean and clear as possible to really, have that foundation to work from.
Well, and I think that that's very important to do when you're really starting to be conscious of everything that is affecting you, and depending on how deep within that you want to go, you're going to need to be very clear. Some of us have to work around computers all the time, all day, and so I'll be honest with you. I have crystals on my computer. I have some quartz that's programmed and some selenite. I have a quartz sitting on my computer right now, trying to make sure that we keep this connection good, because there's a little bit of interference here and there. We're both fading in and out, but maybe we're kind of ascending into the dimension as we're talking. Who knows? But some of the things that I do on a daily basis to keep my energy clear and to make sure that I have this solid gold aura egg around me, so that I can just I'm not allowing, any energy interference into my field, is I use water a lot. In the shower, I imagine that the water is raining down on me, this golden source energy, and really just cleansing me from the inside out and from the outside in. I also like to take a bath in Himalayan sea salt and baking soda. Those are two very important things to clear your organs. I energize the water with my thoughts. We know that our body is mostly water, and that our body can be programmed through crystals, through words, through sound, through light. So I energize the water that is in contact with my body, and my body's water, and I raise the frequency of those things through sea salts, and through the baking soda. I ask the baking soda to clear my body and everything. And a lot of it, Bernhard, is imagination. Imagination is so powerful, and that's the one thing that gets squashed when we're young, is the ability to be imaginative. Okay, I'll get it out. To be young and carefree and creative.
Right. What you just mentioned is I do similar things. Water is amazing. Unfortunately, I don't have a bathtub where I live.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But I do salt scrubs. This morning I went down in the ocean, took a swim, which water is key for me. It's just amazing. And then I also, similar to you, and then every morning I do my qigong just to get in my body, and then followed up by meditation. And I also, really just focus on getting grounded into earth, imagining a cord connected from my pelvic bowl down into earth, and also, imagining a protective shield around me. And most often I just meditate out in nature, just listen to the birds, the nature sounds, and just be and really connect. And things like walking barefoot in nature has amazing effects. Then the sun, being exposed to the sun is very healthy and good for you. So, there's a lot of propaganda out there in terms of the sun is bad for us and we need to put all kinds of sun lotions on us. No, it's fine. In doses, it's actually very, very healthy, and not only in terms of vitamin D and helping the immune system, but it also relates to taking in the light infusion we're under right now on this planet, I feel. So these are really
Oh, darn. You're cutting out again. What you're saying is so important. Keep talking. I'm trying. We can't hear you. Or I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Everything that you said, Bernhard, is so important. It's so a part of what. It's so simple. So it's simple. If you're fortunate enough to live by the water, by the ocean, or even in a lake, go immerse yourself. It's like equivalent to a baptism in a way, but it's the good kind of baptism.
Yeah. You made a great point right now. It's really that's where I'm at right now. It's about simplifying, because it's really simple, but we are so distracted with, especially nowadays, the internet information, which is fine. It's great, especially nowadays with social media, and we can connect and network and build community and whatnot. But it's so easy to get distracted and lose our connection from our bodies and nature, when there's, simple things we can do on a daily basis. And even just, for people who live in the city, go camping, go sleep in nature for a week or 2-3 days, even just one night, and recharge yourself out there. It's the cheapest vacation.
Right. Well, and people who do live in the city, you're describing how you're out in nature, and you're basically trying to disconnect. And I know what you're doing intuitively. I know who you are and why you're here. You're like me. You know that you're the most important thing that you can do to help the collective human consciousness is to ground the energies that are now coming in from the sun and from the cosmos into the planet, and therefore into the collective human consciousness, to help raise the frequency and the vibration all around. Not only for yourself, but when you do it for yourself, you do it for everyone else. You're
Exactly.
keeping the ball rolling.
Yeah, if we anchor the frequency, it affects others. That's really what it comes
People
down
who
to.
live in the city, you're there for a reason too. There is so much darkness and so many traps. The way cities are laid out to basically harvest energy, grid systems. You know, every street, every number on a street, the Masons have the keys and the codes to be able to set things up to create a web matrix to harvest energies in the city. So if you're in the city, you have a decision to make. You know, at this point, if things have become pretty intolerable in your life, and you're feeling ill, and you just don't have any energy, and you're always drained, and you're not able, you know, perhaps you're even having physical manifestation of disease, you'll have to make a decision as to whether that city is the right city for you. And I think that a lot of people have been uprooted and moved lately, realizing and they hear a calling to move to another city. So, but if you're in a city and you're not experiencing any of those things, then bravo for you. You're there to help anchor a higher frequency into that city. And there's things you can do. You know, you can put headphones on and use some higher frequency 440 hertz or 5228 hertz frequency music for meditation. Music is so important. Bernhard, you were talking about being a drummer.
Yeah.
I think drumming, the actual rhythmic motion and the drumming kind of goes in, and it actually just breaks apart any kind of darker, low vibrational energies. It kind of just pounds it to death. You know, it dissolves it. And music, I think, is so very important. So that's another thing that you can do is put those headphones on if you live in the city. Put some nature music on with birds chirping and, violins or different things, whatever appeals to you the best and makes you feel really good. And it's meditation in that respect. It's just about being with the music and not trying to make it something that someone else has taught you that it should be. And I was just wondering, Bernhard, if you would just share with us, for someone who lives out in nature a lot, how often do you actually spend time in meditation, and what are your meditations like?
Every day, mostly in the morning, sometimes several times a day. And, it's not, I meditate maybe for 10, 15 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, but it's about consistency. Right? It's more beneficial to really even take 5-10 minutes a day and get in the meditative state rather than once a week for an hour or something like that. For example, like with any practice, even conscious body movement practices like yoga or qigong. I've been doing it for 15 years, but I don't really go that much to classes, but I do it consistently every day for maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes, right? So, my experiences with meditation is there's when I'm in a good state, positive state, I just ground myself and just do my thing, and everything is fine. But when meditation is really beneficial, if you are actually maybe under attack or in a depressive or emotional negative state, to really sit with it, and that's helped me a lot to clear a lot of my own stuff, to sit with whatever comes up and just let it arise. To not fight it, to not avoid it, to get into that negative feeling. And in my personal experience, it sometimes resulted in crying, just tears. Crying is an amazing healing practice, basically. Or even anger coming up, and then when anger comes up, sometimes you mentioned music. Music has been my ally all my life. Without music, I don't know if I would be here.
Exactly, me too.
Yeah, for me it's all about music, rhythm, and dance. I love to dance. I dance daily. I put on some music and just move, and because a lot of emotions I cannot express in any other way than through my body, and just, sometimes I just get into more, there's ambient music and down-tempo, whatever, and that's beautiful, and you can explore that. But sometimes I also like to get into more aggressive music, just to get in touch with my rawness, my male warrior energy and righteous anger, and just let it out, to let it move through me, and just release it and transmute it.
Well, and Bernhard, what you're experiencing is the multi-level, multi-dimensional, hyperdimensional clearing of all of those past lives where you've been stuck here doing this over and over again.
Right.
And that is how our emotional body is a clearinghouse for the energies that it's not like we wouldn't be able to exist in this lifetime if we didn't clear those. What it is, it's like this is like a gift of the power of right now where we do have an emotional body and we can do a service to our oversoul by clearing the aspect, the emotional energy that has been stuck from past lives, which are actually happening, really at the same time. It's like we'd be okay if we didn't clear them, but wow, now that we have the capability of clearing them with this emotional body that we have and with the energies that are supporting this clearing right now, we are actually moving our oversoul into a higher level, a higher consciousness in itself, and it's a total cleansing. So everything that you're feeling, if you're, I grew up depressed. I grew up with the weight of, however many trillion lives I've had on my shoulders, and all of those emotional things coming up, and the confusion and not understanding why I could never be happy. That's how I really had my awakening experience, is realizing, damn, I've tried it all. I've been through everything. I've tried prescription medication. I've tried divorce and marrying someone else, and climbing the corporate ladder, and I've had pretty much everything I needed. Why can't I be happy? And just sitting with myself and accepting that I wasn't happy was the first step, awareness, and saying, okay, I have to change this, whatever it takes, and calling out to the universe and saying, I need help. I don't understand. And then the door opens to understanding that it's not just your emotions or your energy from this lifetime that's at stake. It's your whole oversoul. And you are so much more powerful than you realize, and you're doing so much more work on the inner planes than you even realize right now. So embodying yourself, you mentioned that, it is so important. What we tend to do when we don't understand how powerful we are is we want to escape this body. We want our spaceship to come pick us up and to take us away from the planet. I got on my knees one time and begged my star family to come pick me up, that I didn't want to be here anymore. But so a lot of times we find ourselves doing a lot of drugs and drinking a lot and just basically getting high, which means popping out of our body. And when we do that, we may leave our body susceptible for another being to just pop right in. So I just want to caution everybody, I spent a lifetime of partying and drinking and trying to escape and trying to live this life to the fullest, pushing the boundaries of whether I could kill myself or not, not really wanting to die, but on the other hand, not wanting to be here either, until I had the full understanding that I need to be fully in this body and not allow any other beings in this body with me unless it's in the highest benefit for my oversoul and for myself.
Can I say something? That's a really important point you make. First of all, I want to say, especially about emotions. Emotions are key in this process of ascension, right? It's really about whatever may come back, experiencing it and not judging it. Even so-called quote-unquote negative emotions, they're not really negative, we just judge them as negative, right? Whatever it may be, anger, jealousy, sadness, depression, whatever, don't judge, yourself for it. I know in my own spiritual process, and I've been always very hard on myself whenever I got triggered or didn't act for my higher self or experience negative emotions, I was beating myself up even more that I would have that, right? Even like the spiral of guilt and shame, right? So really accepting whatever may come up and not engaging in so-called spiritual bypassing of just trying to reach the higher, trying to be positive, trying to think happy, positive thoughts. That just creates more armor and a very superficial, pseudo-positive spiritual personality, while the shadow deep inside grows stronger and stronger and can come out in other ways, even manifest an illness, if we don't explore and really let everything arise in love. And in love means just accepting it, and just experiencing it, and that alone already is the healing. I see a lot of people in my body work practice. They have stored so much up, so they're so desensitized from their bodies and just avoid and disassociated. The body literally builds up armor. So it's really about, like you said, getting into the body, anchoring. And you made another really important point about why embodiment and anchoring our soul, so to speak, is so important, because there's a lot of people's soul is fragmented, or the soul is anchored in their body, right? And when it's not fully anchored, you're disassociated, you're up in your head, you're just present in the here and now. Then other energies or entities will take up on that space, just like you just said, right? It's like an open vacancy sign, basically. So that's why embodiment is really the key of really like being grounded in this reality and anchoring the frequency.
Yeah, I do talk about this a lot on my shows, but one of my practices is just asking my higher self, connecting with my higher self and my oversoul and then source, and just asking that all of my splintered aspects of either from this lifetime or from other lifetimes that were basically frozen in time, that are like mirror shards that just froze, like a mirror breaking and then just freezing into space, that those all be either integrated and healed back into my body or reconstituted back to source, so that there's no fragments out there just hanging around. That I welcome all. When we have fear, we don't want to look at ourselves. We're scared to know who we are, and those fragments that are sitting outside of us they were scared out of there in the first place. So in order to integrate them back in, we may have to feel. We may have to use that emotional body, and it's not always easy, but we do have help from our higher self in knowing when we're ready to integrate that back in. And it's a conscious effort. Basically, it's so simple. Just asking, to be whole again. To make it, simple. To be whole again. To be wholly in this body. Now, when you do that, Bernhard, haven't you noticed that you cannot be screwed with?
Very true.
Yeah. But people around you can, okay? Now, before I came to this place where this was occurring, and I know when I'm off center because I see myself being triggered, and I can stop and take 2 steps back and erase that, go back in time and say, no, I do not consent to that, do not consent to be triggered, get back centered and grounded again. I am a sovereign being. I am a fractal of source here in this embodiment to make a difference and erase it and forgive myself, because it's so easy to be in that third dimensional space and to kind of slip back, and that's a game. We're in a game of slipping back and forth. But what I see, I just want to cocoon myself in the house, because being around my unawakened family is very, very difficult. And to be honest with you, I've had to remove myself from that situation, not only for my better good, but because they're not cognizant of how they allow from their shards of their self jumping out of their body. They're not aware that they allow these hyperdimensional beings into their energy field. And it's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when they come in, and they sometimes don't even remember what they said or did to try to trigger me to get me back in the game here. So what are some things that people can do besides leaving? I mean, one time I couldn't leave. I just couldn't leave. And this was happening to me, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I can't leave. I was actually in the middle of moving, so I couldn't like get in the car and leave. And the only thing you can do is just to be responsible for your own thoughts and actions yourself, and to just get into a space of love. How else would you describe how you can stop a situation in its tracks?
Well, first of all, it's interesting to say what you say about family, because as the saying goes, if you want to really test your spiritual progress, spend time with your family, right?
Right.
But what I would say, trigger is, trigger, what you mentioned before about triggers, that's a great, how do you say, like basically a sign to check yourself if you really embodied and anchored then yourself, because when you trigger, then you're off, you're not present, you're, have an energy leakage, or you're letting something in. So that's a sign to really take responsibility for that, and not, the first thing is not, like I said before, not project, not get into a fight, really act from a zero point, so to speak, non-reactive. And that can be hard at times when the trigger is strong, but non-reaction I found the best. And then also being externally considerate, right? As much as, especially with family, there's a lot of, emotions and triggers and projections. But, like for many of us, there's the blood family, but we don't really connect to our blood family as we connect to others who are our spiritual family, right? But we still need to spend time at times with our family. So it's really about being externally considerate and really, adapting to their belief system, even if they are believing in lies and whatnot. But really, basically, it's about respecting the law of free will. You cannot, convince somebody else, push information on somebody, or trying to see somebody if he or she's not asking for it sincerely, so to speak. And I've done this. When in my awakening process, I got so excited, and it was out of really from a good-hearted space, and one of my friends, you got to check this out. There's these aliens and all these and I was just excited about it, you know what I mean? And I received so much attacks and ridicule and being made fun of, and lots of drama because I was trying to convince my friends and family. And I had to learn the hard way of really being externally considerate and just not pushing information or trying to make somebody else see, but really hold my own and being externally considerate and adapt to other people's belief system, and just being silent when it's asked for. And when it's on the other hand, when it's asked for and you speak out and another person's asking sincerely and comes up, you can go there. With my parents, for example, it was a tough it's been tough years over the past. I've been living in the States now 20 years, and my parents are in Germany. And it was really hard for my parents, especially since I'm the only child that live here, so especially with what I've been through, my parents are somewhat conservative and whatnot. So we had a lot of struggle, but over the years, also with some stuff I write and when I visit them, my parents were influenced by some of the things I talk about. So they got turned on, not in like the fringe topics or any deeper conspiracy stuff, but basic health. My dad, for example, has been suffering with migraine for most of his life. And, I told him about Chinese medicine and told him about Qigong and Tai Chi, and he saw it in me, how it has benefited me. So some years ago, my mom booked him a month-long stay in the German Alps in a Chinese retreat center, because he was taking way too much pharmaceuticals to beat his migraine, and it really knocked him out with all the side effects. So he went there for a month, and literally just with right diet, Qigong, and acupuncture, he healed his migraine, and he's off pharmaceuticals, never had it again. So, I really encouraged my parents, basically, to have a healthier lifestyle. So really what it comes down is living by example, right? That's what it comes down to. And then if people see it and without preaching or anything, and then they pick up on it, and then we can help in that way. But sometimes it's not possible, and like you said, then we need to do the best of staying grounded and making our boundaries clear, as hard as it is. Love in the true sense of the word also means sometimes saying no, because you cannot give what if somebody's not asking for it. So then we need to remove ourselves and make our boundaries clear.
Yes, and I just will spend a little time in meditation and go into my heart space and expand it and send it out to the situation. I also do this declaration of sovereignty and non-consent, where if I get really upset about something that's going on with one of my family members, I'll just basically say out loud, I do not consent to blah, 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 whatever it is where they were stealing my power, because they don't realize what they're doing. I was there before my awakening. I was doing the exact same thing, stealing other people's energies and having my energies stolen as well. This dance of trying to stay alive, by having my energy sucked, so I'd suck somebody else's energy. And it's all about being responsible for yourself, but also you can say I do not consent to my loved one doing this and the situation, and send love to it. And I know it sounds just really simple, but it's amazing how you can watch a situation turn around, and it's like you're creating a whole new reality. And I think that the energies that are coming to the planet right now, whether it seems like they're coming from within the planet, or whether we're moving through space to a new time and space where the frequency is higher, however you want to look at it subjectively, I think that the energy is supporting even more and more and more change in our reality. And all we have to do is realize that we are creating this reality, and we are breaking down the old program, and we're replacing it with a new program, new coding, new information that will change the way that we live on this planet. And that is going to hit every person on the planet a little at a time, however much they can handle it. And I think that that's what I am experiencing right now. So, there's been some talk about this Wave X coming up in September by my friend Dr. Simon Atkins, and he has explained that there's of course, we've been receiving waves of electromagnetic energy that's meant to slowly and gradually increase the frequency of the planet and our frequency as well. It happens, in I think it's 26,000 year cycles or whatever. I'm not really good with numbers or dates or the past, because I'm trying to see it as it's happening in the now. And this is to be expected, but what's different this time is that we're not planning on moving back into a lower density in another 26,000 years or whatever. What Earth is planning on doing is raising her frequency. And there's this Wave X, which is basically nothing but more intense and higher accelerated frequencies coming to bathe us and the planet, so that we can move to a next higher level of understanding and awakening. And I think that we're going to see, this is so exciting, after, it's happening now, but really after the end of September, October, I think it's going to plant some seeds in our loved ones that haven't awakened to a level of understanding that we have, to where they're going to start questioning even more. They're going to be a mass awakening occurring on the planet as more and more people realize that their reality is not the reality that they wanted to create, and they find themselves confused as to how it got this way. And then they start seeking answers, and that's how things like N5D and this radio show that we're creating right now, and all the things that you have on your website, Bernhard, will be archived and available for these people. Do you see that that's what's occurring?
Absolutely. I have heard about the whole wave in September, the end of September, around 22nd or 23rd, I believe, but I haven't really fully looked into it. And personally, I'm not really fixated on dates, but I already see it happening. I see it in my own life, especially over the past half year. Something is definitely accelerating, and I see a lot of people waking up. I see it actually. I'm pretty active on Facebook and whatnot, and I post my things and articles and thoughts and whatnot. But over the past months, there has been really an exponential rise of awareness in these topics, especially, I post a lot about the hyperdimensional topic and and whatnot. And more people are really open to these topics and even share their own experiences and vulnerabilities. I get so many messages and emails, it's hard to keep up actually. But it's very encouraging. It's really it's beautiful, because I'm really not doing anything different than what I've done over the past 4 years, and like not even a year or 2 years ago, nobody really cared or would ridicule it or attack me for it and whatnot. And now there's much more acceptance of what you would call fringe topics. So it's definitely a larger awakening happening here. And with regards to the date, as I said, I'm not really concerned about that date. I think with this light infusion, it's definitely happening, but at the same time, what's happening, all this, whatever is not in alignment is coming up and has to come up, because you need to clear yourself to be able to anchor that frequency. If there's anything in your body, in your emotional self, mental self, whatever, in your whole multidimensional being that is blocking that frequency, it needs to be cleared. You need to let go of something in order to fill it up. So that's my view on it, basically, in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you for that, because it was based, the date or the end of September is based on basically predictive modeling. It's an estimate, and we've had a lot of large waves come through. We had the harmonic convergence of 1987, a wave that sent more frequencies to be anchored. And so really what this is about is awareness that, yes, we're on the cusp of it now. I can feel amazing energies coming in more and more. Just like you said, I've been sharing with everybody. It's in my reality. I can see it. It's happening now, and it will continue to happen. But we just have to to consent to not only consent, but anchor these frequencies and allow. We have to allow them to wash over us. There's already a lot of fear propaganda out there about this. No, don't accept this wave. This is coming from some dark place or whatever. The only thing that's coming from a dark place are your own fears. So what we're doing is we're creating what we want. If we want a wave of higher frequency vibrational consciousness to sweep the planet, wake everybody the hell up, and move into a different reality, then that's what we're creating. That's what we need to create, not any negativity around, We're trying to create wave X by allowing it at the same time, because we knew that this was going to happen before we came into this lifetime. We knew that that's what we were here to experience and to witness. The exciting thing is, Bernhard, is I think we're really on the cusp of it finally being something that will be on a mass scale across the planet, to where there will be more and more and more people quickly coming together to change this reality. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. And, on that note, I would also advise for people really not to get too distracted by 3D issues, because a lot of stuff may go down. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, I see so much fear and not fear-mongering, but people getting into fear. Like there was, for example, this is J helm exercise, whatever happening. People are freaking out about that and other things and this and that, what the government is doing to us. And I'm at the point, it's not that I'm ignoring it or denying it. Evil is there. It has its place. It's not going to just vanish away magically. But you cannot, if you just so focus on the 3D aspect, we are missing the bigger picture of what you just said, what is happening here, right? So a lot of things will disintegrate. People will disintegrate. People who are not meant to be on this wave ascension process will, simply, like you said before, experience 3D on that level. And I feel in terms of ascension process, which is an internal process, it's not like we leave the planet or anything like this. We also at the same time are creating a different timeline for ourselves. So that's in the way I see the ascension process. And I see it in my own life. After years of a lot of struggle, attacks and suffering, and this year for the first time in a long time, I'm really on a very grounded level, not having experienced any negative emotions or even attacks, and feeling really embodied in my being, and I don't even make long-range plans or goals anymore. Just there's a flow into my life and a lot of positive synchronicities. As long as you're really aligned with your higher self and what you're here to do, and really act from trusting yourself, being your own leader, right? Not looking for outside anybody trying to tell you what to do or what you should do, and really trust yourself in that sense, then the right things will come across that will help you in your individual process, in this ascension process. But that also may include certain lessons we need to face and learn, that may be sometimes for some people not that pleasant, so to speak, but there's no need for fear. Fear is literally, like you said before, it's such an illusion. I see it in my own life. And even fear of experiencing certain emotions that need to be cleared. I see it in my clients I work with, or even myself in the past. The fear is actually only the expectation of what we think is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
There's always the time element. Fear is a time element. But then when you actually open yourself up, experience what you judge as negative or as a negative emotion, let it wash through you, it's actually a beautiful experience, and there's nothing to fear, and it just it releases itself, and you may cry or have other forms of release, but it's a beautiful process, and there's nothing to fear, right? Even like danger, for example, danger is real. Like, we need to be discerning who we interact with, what the situations we get into, but fear is essentially always a choice.
Yes, and gosh, you just said so many major key words. I mean, we do need to learn how to trust ourselves, and that involves your intuition. And people who are just waking up, that's the one thing that they just want to know, how do I listen to my own intuition? And to be honest with you, you just have to keep trying to understand your own discernment, and in order to do that, you have to go down the wrong path a couple of times in order to see what it feels like to your body, and to learn how to listen to your body's clues. Like you said, we may meet somebody, and we may have this instant sexual attraction or this magnetic draw towards them, right? But then there's this, like, in the back of our head going, no, we're not going down this road again, are we? And then there's this other voice saying, yeah, we are.
Totally relate.
Yeah, you get down that road, and then at the end of the breakup, you think, what the hell was I thinking? I knew I shouldn't have done this, right? But you learn to read the signs and read your body language a little better, and know, at the time you didn't understand what a hyperdimensional attack was, or that we could be manipulated with our thoughts, and even our sexual magnetism can be manipulated to draw somebody towards you. So sometimes you just have to do it in order to understand what it feels like, so that you will know the next time that it happens to you, you'll recognize it, and you'll be able to have complete self-control and sovereignty over your emotions and your sexual feelings.
Yeah, and then that we're always being guided. Nature and reality always gives us signs in forms of symbolisms or little hints, you know what I mean? But we need to learn to see the unseen, so to speak, right? To see these messages. Because, even like, obviously besides the negative quote-unquote forces, there are positive forces, but they don't infringe free will. They don't do the work for us. We need to do the work to learn our own lessons. They sometimes also don't prevent us from getting into challenging situations, but they help us also in the sense of giving us signs and symbols, or working through our intuition. As long as we're really embodied in ourselves, the body, constantly gives us signs and signals of what is good for us and what not, but most of us so disconnected from the body that we don't listen to it and totally forgot about it, right? And sometimes if we don't listen to these subtle hints and symbols and the red flags, then sometimes the universe needs to kick a billboard on our head so we get the message, right?
Well, yeah, and I back to relationships. You learned a lot from Carla Ruckert. Is that correct? Did I say her name right?
Carla Turner.
Turner, thank you. and Eve Lorgen about love bite relationships. And the reason why I got so enamored with Eve Lorgen's information is that I have been through one of these myself, and looking back on it, it's very clear what it was looking back on it. But when it was happening at the time, this is before my awakening, I just thought it was fate. I thought that there was a lot of synchronicity involved. So negative synchronicities can definitely happen. It's like a fake synchronicity. It's things are planted in your reality to make it look like things were just meant to be. There was a lot of, I would say, sexual energy vampirism involved, to where I would notice that my husband was not really my husband sometimes, and I did start to pick up on that, and it kind of freaked me out, and it made me not want to have sex as much. And that's when the relationship really started falling apart, because when things are based on that, and then your intuition, your body says, ooh, that doesn't feel right anymore, something's wrong. So you pull that out of the situation, and then you see the relationship really for what it is. And I think that's just how I had to go through, realizing that there was a love bite set up without even knowing what a love bite was. But then when I've had Eve Lorgen on the show before, in the archives, if anybody's interested, they can find that. She talks a lot about love bite. But I guess one thing that, the energies are doing for us now, and especially if we've done our work and we've cleared ourselves, we just can't fall into something like that again. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I learned it the hard way myself.
Me as well, yeah. So you mentioned the magic word that I love, and that's this timeline shifting and timeline jumping. We are actually co-creators of this reality by every moment, every thought, every millisecond, every in the now moment that we're here, we're timeline jumping. And there's a law of attraction, a law of magnetism that will bring to you what you are emanating. And so the whole idea, as we see things that are around us, there's distractions and chaos and everything. There is no distraction and chaos really where I am right this moment. Right this moment in time, I'm sitting in a room on a radio show having an amazing conversation. There is no chaos around me. There's no chaos in my reality. So that brings a high vibration to the show, and we're sharing that vibration in that space with others to be able to feel what it's like to be in that vibration and to strive and pull that magnetism towards them. And so, that's how this all works. Where when we do it for ourselves, we do it for other people as well. And I think that's what we have to remember when we do have to insert ourselves back into the chaotic situation. If we have a job that we have to go to every day, luckily I've set myself up to living on minimal income, because I don't do this for the money. I can tell you that there is no money. The money that I bring in is from helping people in an individual basis on life coaching. And I just seem to have just enough clients and have enough to get by, and that's really all I need. So, it's good to be aware that we draw to us what we put out. And I guess that's a summary for me on everything that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I definitely agree in that regard. But at the same time, I feel nowadays the whole idea of law of attraction, or you create your own reality, is a bit oversimplified. Most is used to manifest some sort of material desires, or your perfect love partner. Mostly desires based on the conditioned self, from our upbringing, society, and whatnot. But, for example, when you look back into the deep esoteric meaning of like attracts like, the law of attraction, is it actually relates to the adept or the seeker to attract. Once you start walking the path, what he will attract or she will attract in this life is whatever is necessary for his or her personal spiritual evolution. So sometimes, that might be like, that ties into the saying, the teacher appears when the student is ready, or like the right book or teaching or person comes into life to help us move on. But sometimes it can also attract necessary lessons and challenges. We need to learn those lessons in order to move on. So these kind of we attract as well. And, and then we attract also, like I said in the beginning of our talk, the attention from negative entities. Because they are light eaters, we raise our frequencies. We especially, people like you and I and others who are more on the front lines and put themselves out and speak out, and they're being attacked, psychic attacks, or through others. So we attract that kind of attention not because of we're in a negative state or we think negative thoughts. No, it's because, like in Barbara Messiniak said in Bringers of the Dawn, we are system busters. We're shaking things up. And, there's this quote-unquote alien intelligence that has had or still has a grip on humanity for so long. Obviously, they don't like that. It goes against the interest, against their agenda. So they're trying to shut them down. So light workers or wanderers or anybody here who's more really deeply involved in conscious raising activities, speaking out, whistleblowers, whatever, they are prime targets for these kind of attacks, right? So we attract them in that regard, but we don't attract them because of our negative vibration or anything, but actually because of our more higher, light body, so to speak, because they're light eaters. So that's to be kept in mind.
That is true. That is true. Yes. So I wanted to talk about just a couple of subjects that were left since we've covered. I think we've covered the gamut. I mean, this is just, thank you for going so far down the esoteric rabbit hole with me on, our interpretation of what's occurring at this time, because it is so important to put it into our own perspective, because that's really all I can offer, for understanding, and the more information you have and the more understanding you have, the less fear you have about what's happening. And especially if you are experiencing a psychic attack, you know exactly what it is, and you know that you're more powerful than that. You've drawn it to you, either A, because you're exhibiting negative tendencies, or B, because you're exhibiting extremely high light frequency. And then now from listening to the show what to do about it. But, I use the Internet every day. As you said, you do too. And there is a dark side of the Internet. Would you like to share a little bit about that? Because in order to use the Internet in the right way, we have to understand everything about it.
Well, let's start with the positive.
Yes.
The light side of the Internet. Well, the Internet is amazing. We connect, especially nowadays with social medias, with people all over the world. I've made amazing connection and friendships. Many people I met then in real life. We can share information, and it's out in the open. It's almost as if the Internet is a parallel to our collective consciousness. Everything is out there, anything, from anything dark to anything light. But at the same time, in regards to the dark side of the Internet, people can get so distracted with information, because there's a lot of disinformation out there, truth mixed with lies. People are not discerning. People unwillingly, with well-meaning intention, can spread disinformation if they're not, grounded in critical thinking or don't trust their intuition. Or sometimes even resonating with something can be sometimes misleading if it's based on emotional projection or wishful thinking, not really grounded in again, your deeper intuition, beyond the conditioned self or the ego, what it likes to see. For example, just feel-good information doesn't mean it's true. Same with, like, quote-unquote negative information doesn't mean it's not true either. For example, you mentioned fear again about all this information, and now, especially more in the past, I've got a lot of people telling me or blaming me that I'm fear-mongering, and especially with my UFO film, UFOs, Aliens, and the Question of Contact, which purposely, and I go into more the darker aspect of this phenomenon, right, especially abduction phenomena. So a lot of people have seen it, especially at night. It freaked them out, and, they're afraid now and everything. But, for me, fear in that regard never came into to the equation for me, because like you said, the more we understand, the less fear there is. Knowledge literally protects, because once you understand on a deeper level and also apply the knowledge, and you understand, okay, this is just an aspect of reality. It was always there. Now you're just aware of it. It still affected you. Not being aware of it and ignoring it is not a protection. It's still going to affect us. It has affected us, right? So going back to the internet, I see it a lot, the dark side of the internet, in terms of online communication. I'm sure you have experienced it on Facebook as well, getting into discussions, people getting triggered, then projecting emotions into words, or, sometimes people talk on Facebook or on social media in general in ways they would never talk when they meet that person in person, right? So we project a lot of stuff into other persons, be it, putting on the pedestal positive qualities based just on some pictures they post or whatever, being infatuated with the person, or negative qualities just because somebody posts this and that. So there are triggers abound, and it's all this friction and drama on internet with all this interaction, and it's actually also what these entities feed off of, right? And again, like we talked before, just being so over-involved online disconnects us from our being, from our body, and we just...
Unfortunately, you're cutting out just a little bit. Yeah, you're cutting out there on me. I can't hear what you're saying.
Okay. I don't know.
Almost. I think you're almost back with us. Pulling you back in. I guess they don't really like what you're saying. Come back to us, Bernhard. Come back to us, Bernhard. Okay.
Hello, is it better?
Yeah, you're back. Okay. Yes, you're back. Well, I thought you were back. There you are. Okay.
Back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not. So I do agree with what Bernhard is saying here about everything. It's amazing. It's just an amazing conversation that we're having, to have someone who is basically tapping into the truth, the internal source truth, and speaking their truth. It's like if I'm speaking, it's amazing. It's like a mirror. It's wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, actually, I was just looking at my list here. I don't have anything else. I do want to remind everybody, we could probably take a caller or two if you want. If you're in the queue and you want to put your hand up by pressing 1, or if you want to call in, it's area code 646-716-8890. This will be a last call here for someone who would like to call in and ask a question or just to speak with us. Bernhard, there seems to be this 11:11 synchronicity phenomenon going on. Are you there? Bernhard, are you there? Let's see.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. You just cut out for a second.
Oh, okay. I guess we probably should get to the end of the show after we take some questions. It seems like our connection is a little choppy. What do you have to say about the 11:11 or the 2:22 or the any kind of 1:11, the synchronicity thing going on with the clocks?
Right. Personally, I've never really looked much into it, but I definitely noticed at certain moments in my life seeing 11:11 a lot, and that it was mostly more of a confirmation of that I'm on the right track, so to speak, in my life, and the flow, so to speak. But I have not looked into any other numbers. I'm sure there's a lot of significance into all that, But where I am at right now, I'm really learning more and more, just to really, going back to the topic, trusting my own inner guidance system, right? And then if there's confirmation from the
cutting out again. I do agree with you that it's confirmation. I think that I see 1111 quite frequently. Also 111. Just the numbers themselves. Even in my on my Facebook, I have this magic thing that happens to where my notifications. I can clear them out, and within a couple hours or whatever, it's stuck back at 111 notifications each time. And like right now, I'm looking at the numbers for people calling in, and I have a 111 number from somebody calling in from Skype. So I can look at the clock just at the right time, and it'd be 11:11 or 1:11 or 2:22. I used to wake up at 2:22 a.m. or 3:33 a.m. So I just wanted to share with people that I think that is, definitely the Matrix's way, the Matrix, the original Matrix programmers' way of giving us confirmation, or basically showing us that we're on the right path, that we're aligned with what we're supposed to be doing. And I think I can hear that you're back now, right. Bernhard.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good.
One of the last things I wanted to talk about is how can people find out what their life purpose is. I know you talk to a lot of people, and they're wanting to know exactly what they can do at this time and what their life purpose is. And I'll share with you in a few minutes what I tell them. But can you let me know how to find, what do you tell people on how to find their life purpose?
Well, what I tell people now to see in my own life is, first of all, letting go of any plans. There's nothing wrong with having on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you're cutting out again. Darn it.
Accomplished, but
there you are.
The river of life may take us in ways we're not really aware. Darn it. I'm back.
Yes.
Sometimes the river of life takes us in ways and curves that really And in my life, I never, if you would have told me 15 years ago or 10 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing now, I would have laughed you into your face.
Oh,
I never really planned on it. It was something was pushing and pulling me, So like the saying says, so to speak, tell God your plans and he will laugh at you. I think the more we come in alignment within ourselves and do our clearing work and really get embodied, then we're being guided to what we're here to do. And I feel a lot of people want to get this definition of this grand purpose they're here to do, and it's purpose is not a definition. It's the journey we're on, and for some people, even on the daily basis, like you said, we are here to anchor higher frequency. So, for example, whatever situation you find yourself in, be it even in a job you don't necessarily enjoy right now, you can still do your best to, maybe spread some seeds of awareness, or do something good for others. Like even literally just opening the door for somebody would make his or her day. Mm-hmm. So it's really about more simplifying things and not over-analyzing what we're here to do, and really trusting the process in your own process, and in terms of embodiment and anchoring the higher frequency, and learning to trust yourself, your intuition, and the symbolism of nature and reality, which is reflected back to you, separating positive from negative synchronicities, and then it will all reveal itself. And, also, what I also learned more and more is to really appreciate and honor the mystery of life.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, and it's really enjoy the ride for what it is. Even if it can be challenging at times, but in the end, the only way out is through. And
well, I think our internet connection on your end is just being a little too spotty at this time. But I did hear most of what you said, and I think it's beautiful. And I do offer the same advice. I think that everybody is where they're supposed to be, and that we have to trust that we are following our own guidance a lot more than we realize. That, most of our thoughts are not our own. They're either our higher selves, or if we're infiltrated, they're an interdimensional being putting thoughts into our head. And so learning to discern which thoughts are right for you and which thoughts you don't want, being completely responsible for your actions and thoughts, and then going really on a path of what you enjoy doing. That's your first clue as to what you can be doing to contribute right now. But I am totally with you on anchoring the higher frequency coming to the planet. It's happening right now. It's very exciting to watch people coming out of the woodworks, just joining in this beautiful thing that's unfolding, and accepting that this is real, that this is happening. And even though we do make the comparison that we're in a matrix or this is a hologram, it's still, we still have consciousness that is trapped here, and we're untrapping it, freeing it, and moving into a higher space. And when we do this here on the planet in such a low frequency, we're doing it for the rest of the universe. It ripples out into the universe. We are changing much more than we realize. So just forget I said that, because that puts a little bit too much pressure on things. But it's true. It's true. What we're doing here is so important. And so it's about letting go of expectations. It's about trusting that what you're doing just by being here is beautiful and enough. But if you want to take the higher path, it's about thinking about what your interests are deep inside. What did you like to do when you were a kid? What would you do if there was no such thing as money? What would you do for fun if you could do anything? And going towards that, because anchoring in the highest vibration of joy and fulfillment in what you're doing in this life, there's just no better way that you could serve at this time. So what I do in my life coaching sessions is we start talking about, I get clues and cues from what people say, and then I have a higher guidance and intuition and kind of like an inner voice that helps me guide somebody exactly to the highest path that they can be on. I mean, just being here right now and being alive and not dying, staying in a physical body, you're doing what you came here to do. But there's also a higher path for those who want to challenge themselves.
Yeah, and well said. And also, recognizing our individuality as much as we're all connected, letting go of comparison.
Mm-hmm.
What others tell you, what you should, you shouldn't do. It's really, again, your own inner guidance. And we all have talents, certain talents, and certain things we are literally wired or meant to do, and only you can do it and nobody else can do it.
Exactly. Isn't that the truth? Man, I just love you. And I love that Bringers of the Dawn was one of your first really, I could read that book over and over. I listen to it sometimes to fall asleep, the automatic reading.
Yeah.
Greg and I have this in common too as well. And, whether it just was, it doesn't even matter what they say. As a matter of fact, I can't even remember some of the words, other than the talking about the photon belt. Moving into the photon belt, and that what we're here to do, is anchoring the frequency and all that. That does, it's the feeling I got. Oh my gosh, this is like I couldn't put the book down. That's when you get that feeling about something, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
So no matter what you read, no matter whether it's a channeling or not a channeling, everything's channeled. I'm channeling right now my higher self. So let go of all of these labels and terms, and let go of the words attached to something. Wave X is coming. Yes, Wave X is already here. Wave X is just a name that was put towards this frequencies. Just get out of your left brain, your mind, and your thinking about how we've been told something is, and instead feel into it, into your right brain, into your heart. And really, when you come from a place of love and you put your best intentions towards serving out of love, then you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to end this show, Bernhard.
Nice.
I thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Right. Did we have any callers? Or?
No, we don't. Nobody wants to talk to us.
All right. Fair enough.
I guess, sometimes I've just come to realize that I'm so in tune with whoever is listening, and whoever, it's not only just now, but in the future, on the recording, that we just seem to answer all the questions.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground, for sure.
We sure did. So people can find you on veilofreality.com. That's your blog website for Piercing the Veil of Reality. And I'm just honored to have, shared space with you tonight. And I just feel like I'm talking to myself when you speak. So it's been an honor and a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine, Michelle. It was great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye now. So everybody, I wanted to let you know, I want to thank everybody listening for joining us tonight and sharing in this space of love and high vibration. And I just want to remind you that next week, my show, I hadn't had a guest scheduled next week. So unless somebody shows up, what I'd like to do next week is all you people that were just a little bit too shy to call in and raise your hand, well, next week I want you to call in. We're going to have a Q&A with me. I will be the Q&A person, and I will take all of your questions and all of your calls. I will also be taking a 1 or 2 question miniature life coaching session for free. So next week will be your opportunity to really call in and tell me, if you're having any kind of attacks, if you're having wondering where you should move from here, what you should do, any kind of personal issues, health issues, healing issues, anything. We're going to be talking about that next week. This is going to be your show next week, and I can't have it unless you call in. So start thinking about what you'd like to talk to me about. Then on August 27th, we're bringing back my friend Dr. Simon Atkins. We're going to talk more about the incoming waves of electromagnetic energy, and we are going to talk about your health. Dr. Atkins is very versed in alternative medicine and just so many things. The man is just so full of information. He speaks from his heart. He's here to help. And so in 2 weeks, you'll have Dr. Simon Atkins back on the show. Everyone, stay centered and grounded with Mother Earth. Start to speak to her and listen to her. She can hear you. Can you hear her? That's my goal right now, is to try to hear what Mother Earth is saying through my body. I'm not clairaudient yet, but I am clairsentient, and I'm clear knowing. So I am her in a way. We are connected. If we are connected, we are her. Okay, so that's my goal right now, and so I just wanted to share that little last tidbit with you guys. And I appreciate everybody joining me, and I send everybody my love and healing tonight. Until next week, be sure and get those questions ready for me. Good night.